Hello, everyone, and of course, welcome to Heads and Dovetails with myself, Jill Harvey-Bush, and as I always say, the lovely Jamie Hubbard.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jamie. We were just having a quick chat beforehand, and then we said, "Oh, well, actually, this will lead into this, and this will lead." So, a quick roundup of what we were talking about. It started with the weather, of course, being British, and then we're going to that's going to lead us all the way through. So people can then have to listen and say, well, how are we getting from the weather and everything links to smoking?
We're planning this, and I think it could be a disaster. Not going to work. We'll try it. We'll try it.
Yeah, let's see,
Weather.
let's see what happens. So
Oh,
I was talking about the weather, and I think I've just posted on Instagram this morning. I'm in East Devon. You know, the southwest of England has been hit really hard, to put it mildly, and it's just rained and rained and rained and rained and rained. Our garden literally is like a bog now. You just put one foot on it, and your foot is covered with water on the grass wherever you walk. And now we've got lots of little lovely natural ponds appearing all over the garden. I was out early, as you know, I go off to, I'm one of those sourdough that I'm at Sainsbury's before it opens at 7 o'clock. So a little bit down, one junction down the motorway for me to get to the Sainsbury's. It was throwing it down. And
yeah.
again, our lane, we're kind of raised up from the lane. But as soon as I pull that onto the lane, or as you go to pull out onto the lane, you just see the stream of water coming from the fields, obviously, right the way down into the village. And so you drive carefully, don't you? Not hit the brakes. And again, we were talking about experience. Experienced drivers, you kind of know, don't hit the water and hit your brakes at the same time, which is what many new or learner drivers, if they've
Yeah.
learned in the summer and they haven't come across water and rain,
Yeah.
the temptation is, oh, there's a big thing of water here, hit the brakes, I'm going too fast. And of course, that's the worst thing that you can do. So, but we were
Yeah.
talking about it, weren't we? The weather and potholes. Oh
Yes.
God.
It's horrible, isn't it? I mean,
Mm.
going back to the learner, new drivers. This is something that's happened recently when we had that snow a few weeks ago. The
Snow? We didn't have any. We just had
Well,
rain.
we had some. We had some for a couple of days, and but it's just people aren't used to driving in different conditions, are they?
Correct.
They learn in one season. We have snow for like 2 or 3 days a year, so they don't get experience. And when we had that snow, we had real bad ice. But going back to what we were talking about, which was the water. I mean, I went into the garden the other day. I've been trying to do a day of garden or some
Which you
hours of
said, yeah,
gardening each week.
reorganizing, you said on your
I've not.
last episode.
I've not managed it this
No.
week because it's just been too wet. The little
Hmm.
pockets of time I've had when I could go in the garden today, but I've got some editing to do, so I can't do that. But when I did last go out into the garden, I went into my boots, and I'd got nearly half an inch of mud
Mm.
just off my lawn, and my garden's not very big. Just from walking around, doing some things, moving some compost around, and I came back in. I was just like, this crazy weather. It's horrible. I've had enough of it, Jill. It can go now. It's done its
Yes.
job. It can
Yes.
clear off.
Well, as you know, I'm not usually somebody who will complain about the weather. I go, oh, it's fine. You know, we in the summer we complain we don't have enough rain, and in the winter we complain we have too much. But I think we've had something like 244% rain in January
Have we?
compared to, well, we have in our bit of in
Oh,
the world.
yeah.
And you kind of go, okay, this really is now getting a little bit much. I want to get out in the garden. There's so much that I want to do. Benefit of raised beds, of course, is they're not too bad. So my
Yeah.
beds that are raised up are draining nicely. The
Yeah.
beds that I've just got kind of down at what I call sea level, if you like, in the garden, a bit boggy. And of course, we're on clay as well as pebble bed here. So, but one good thing, the house is nice and secure. We're not going up and down anymore.
You're
Now
not
we've been
floating.
underpinned, we're not floating, but we've got, and as I say, I posted on Instagram this morning, we've got lots of natural ponds appearing around the garden, and in between showers, they're not clearing because the garden is so sodden, they can't drain away. So it's
It's
getting very,
horrible.
very interesting, Jamie. But the pothole thing, yeah,
I
we've
mean,
had the storms,
yeah, they're just
storm
getting,
after storm.
they just seem to be getting worse. The potholes as well. There was one the other day that I was passing, and it's harder when you're in a queue and maybe you're a bit closer and you don't spot something. a queue not moving. But the one I saw the other day, it must have been. It's right next to the drain in the gutter,
Yeah.
and it must have been 8 inches deep. It must have been,
Mm.
and it's just like, good grief, if you go down there. And I'm not the biggest fan of cyclists. I'll be honest, but if a cyclist went down there, that would be could be life
Dangerous.
changing if there
Yeah.
was water in it and they didn't keep further away. So you've got to give the cyclists a little bit of room and make sure that they can go around it. But I'm seeing puddles where I've never seen puddles before.
Mm.
And
No,
I
I
tell you
agree.
what's happened near us as well. I say near us, not far from us. What is it? There's something like 3,500 homes going up. So because
Yeah.
there's 3,500 homes being built on the skirts of Bromsgrove, which is a pain in the neck because it's affecting everything. There's water treatment works going on. Not water treatment, but water to get to feed all of these houses.
Mm.
They're tripling their space and tanks underground tanks for the water to then pump it. Um, but what's happening is these new housing estates where they've just finished some tarmacking as you go in and out. There's floods coming out of there, and you're thinking,
Mm.
what's this going to be like when they've actually finished doing all the building? There isn't enough porous land to hold on to the.
Yep.
It'll be driveways and roads and things. And whilst they've put some things in place for the little stream, is it going to be enough when they've got water? What was fields?
Hmm.
Is it going to be enough when it goes to roads and driveways and things?
And
Is
then
it?
people will even tarmac over the bit of the driveway, or when they're doing their square
Yeah,
of grass that you get at the back, there'll be decking that will be going down, or there'll be paving stones that will be going down.
yeah,
It's all part of it, I think, that's hugely different. Cars, the number of cars people have, and
yeah,
parking and all that side of things. So, yeah, I think it's really interesting with the way the weather's changing. And as we know by all the subsidence stuff that we had, talking to the
yeah.
different insurance companies, talking to the different contractors, talking to other contractors that are coming round, they're all saying the number of claims for subsidence now is
Oh, okay.
phenomenal. And if it's
Yeah.
not subsidence, then they're getting flooding because everywhere is flooding. And we literally, as I said a couple of weeks ago, couldn't get out the village. Village was fine for once. We didn't have it, flooding down at the bottom or anything, but
Mm.
nobody could get to Exeter. Every road around, I think it was even on the news, the lovely butcher at Darts Farm, you could get to Darts Farm from one area if you could get through, but you couldn't cross the river. There's a place called
Yeah.
Topsham, and the restaurants in Topsham and the shoppers from Topsham were coming down to where the flood started, a pub called the Bridge Inn actually, and you had the butcher on his with his apron on and his coat, and he was on his paddleboard with all the deliveries on the front,
Wow.
paddleboarding, paddleboarding the deliveries across the flood to the people standing on the other side. You go, yes, that's us. That's a good British. And there were other people having to kayak in to Darts Farm to get to work. And you just
Wow.
think, wow, it's been bad. It's been really bad.
It has.
That leads us on to talking when we're talking about cars and potholes. And of course, we've got lanes here. I mean, the M5 was closed with flooding. Every
Mm.
road around was just closed due to flooding. But when you're in the lanes as well, it's washing away the repairs that they've done. And hence, in the storms where the power of the water, as you say, it's making the potholes even bigger. Driving home at night, which I was doing last weekend, because again, past Stonehenge, you get off the A30 and then it's kind of lanes, I would call them, to home. But the edge of the lanes have all broken away. So again,
Yeah.
you don't know how close to get. It was dark, it was raining, and it was really hard to see. It's about 6 miles, the worst 6 miles of the whole 150-mile journey, to be honest. So
Yeah.
you're trying to keep out of the side of the road because you know that, you know, there's a dip there, even though it looks like just water. You're trying to watch your potholes in front, as you say. You're also trying to watch the traffic coming the other way. And then you get those blinding headlights, which means you can't see anything for a split second. And of course, you're watching the cars also dodging out of their lane to go round the potholes. So,
That's the thing. That's the thing. It's you've got to stay well back now because
yes.
you would think is the nice route to drive through a corner or around something, if they're having to react to seeing something, we've
Yeah,
just got to be a bit more aware, haven't we? We've got to be
yeah.
a lot more aware.
Yeah. And that then kind of brings us on to the next bit where we're talking about driving and parking. My lovely Sophie, who I did a podcast with on the Gill HB and Friends online driving instructor, she does a great quiz every week on a Tuesday. Theory Test Tuesday, she calls it.
Oh,
I
I've
learned,
failed plenty of times.
have you done it? It's huge. And it's great. And she was talking about a parking light. Do you know how to turn on your parking light on a car and when you should use a parking light? That led me, and of course, some people go, parking light, I've got a parking light on the car.
Yeah,
And she asked, do you know how to turn it on? I was like, I know, it's the indicator. And
yeah.
that's you
Now,
put your
now I know it's
indicator
the
on.
indicator, but
Yes.
when would you leave it on? I'd probably say, I don't know. I'd probably say, I don't know. I don't know. Is it a road with lights or a road without
No,
lights?
it's there's certain areas, and I'll have to go
Width?
back to that
Oh,
you
we need to
have
know.
to put, yes, you have to put the parking light on. I'm not sure if she put like, is it on double yellow lines? Is it on single yellow lines? Is it on, this sort, is it that this quiz? So, and I did get it right. Now I've completely forgotten. Of course, seeing the options, I went, oh, it's definitely that one. And I was
Yes,
right. And that led me to then message her and said, oh, that reminds me. I said, you'll be way too young, Sophie, to remember this. That reminds me of the little parking lights you had to have, that
yes,
everybody had to, if you were parking on the road, you had to make sure you were facing the way the traffic was going, if you know what I mean. So if you were driving, so you couldn't face into traffic.
yes.
So
You have to leave it.
you had
If
to,
you were
yes,
driving along, you'd have to leave it on the
facing
side
that
that you're
way.
driving,
Yes,
so that your rear
absolutely.
lights were points that they would see your rear lights.
Yes. Well, your
Yes,
rear lights weren't
behind.
on, but
Yeah.
what you had was one of these little tiny, and everybody had them, little lights. They were red on the back, white on the front, and you
How
used to
big
have
was it,
to,
Jill? How big was it?
it was about 6 inches. No, maybe not even,
Okay.
yeah, maybe 5 or 6 inches.
Okay. I'm,
And
I'm, I'm quizzing you because I'll tell you in a minute, but I'm quizzing you on it now. So go on. About five or
And
six
what you
inches.
did, it had a little clip on it, and
Yeah.
you wound the window down. So here I am using my old winder, showing you. You wind the window down, you clipped it on the window. Now, please, I wasn't driving then. Can I just make this really clear? I wasn't old enough to drive. I remember my mum and dad doing this,
Yes.
and anybody else, who's of that age, so generation or so above me. And then you wound the window up, and you had a
Yeah.
long lead and you plugged that into the cigarette lighter,
Yeah.
which was on the dashboard. So it wasn't, sometimes it was on the console, but more often than not in older cars, it was in the dashboard. And
Somewhere near
you,
the choke.
yes, now people are
What's a
going to say,
choke?
what's a choke?
There you go.
So, and this is when you realize when your grandparents used to talk about stuff, you used to go, what are you talking about? And you think, oh my goodness. Yes,
A
what's a
choke.
choke? People go, and I have had that. What's a choke? Oh, that's the thing you used to pull out to put a little bit more fuel into the spark plugs to start the car. But if you weren't careful, you flooded it,
So you can do it too long.
and
Oh
then you
no.
could do it too long, and then it wouldn't start. And then you had to push start it. Or we had an Austin A40, so we had the starting handle. And two of us would have to go out the front for mum to turn the handle to try and start the engine, or you push the car down the road. You jump start it, don't you? I mean, not
Yeah.
with
Bump,
leads.
bump.
You bump, yeah. So you'd all be, and the neighbours would come out, you'd all be pushing the car down the road. Well, somebody was inside, and when you got to enough speed, put it into gear, and hopefully the engine would take.
Which gear would
Anyway,
you put it in, Jill? Which gear would you put it in?
I don't know, I couldn't drive then.
Can't you remember?
Probably second
Second,
gear.
second was always pretty good
Second
because first
gear,
was a bit too
yes,
tight.
that's right.
Okay,
And
go on.
also because you were moving, and that's when you learn to drive. Driving instructors will say you only have to put it in first gear if you've come to stop and want to pull away. If
Yeah,
you're
if
just
you're already
crawling,
moving.
if you're already moving, second gear is fine. So I digress and I go back to my parking light. So you'd put the parking light on and you just plugged it into the cigarette lighter,
Yeah,
and you put the cigarette lighter bit just, on the console. In the
with a
morning, you'd come
wire,
along.
and with a wire hanging from your window,
Yes, across the
long enough to
driving.
go sort of
Yes.
under the seat, sort of thing, or over your
Over the
legs. But
steering wheel
you
or
wouldn't be
over the
there,
leg
would
bit.
you? You
No,
wouldn't be in the
no,
car. And then you
no,
plug
no.
it in, and then you wouldn't have to leave the ignition on, would
No,
you? Because
no,
you could take
no.
your
It
keys
just
with
stayed
you.
for,
So
correct.
so it was permanently. So your cigarette
It,
lighter was almost permanently live.
yes.
Yes, it was in those days. Yes,
Yes,
it
in those
was.
days, it was permanently live. So you got out
Because
the
if you
car, went in, and you'd see all the way down the road, you'd see everybody's little parking lights.
right,
So
okay.
if anybody was coming, they could see that there was a car there and not drive into it, which sounds bonkers now.
Well, let me tell you about my experience with the parking light.
Okay.
Everything you've just said, I had not known about any of that until a couple of years ago, and I was sorting some bits out from my van. And I might say a couple of things here now that might make you say, "Oh yes." One of them was, so I was sorting some bits out from the van, and I saw this thing on eBay, this
Hmm.
egg-shaped thing,
That's
red one
it.
end, white
That's
clear the
it.
other end, like an
Yes, egg
elongated
shaped.
oval egg
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
with like a clip on the side that looks like the clip
Yes.
you'd have on your tape measure that clips
Correct.
over your belt.
Over your belt. Yes,
Right.
exactly.
And that's how it clips onto your
Yes, onto your
glass, and
window.
then you
And then you
wind it up.
wind the window back up again.
Right. So I saw this thing. I thought, what on earth is that? And then I read the description, and it said parking light, and I was just like, oh, it looks so cute. Guess who it was made by? Pifco. When was the last time you heard the
That
word
Pifco.
Pifco? Pifco used to make them, and other makes, obviously. Well, I looked at this thing. I don't think I bought it. I think I thought when I've got the van sorted, I will get one. Will I use it? Probably not, because it won't stay on the road. It'll be on the drive, and it'll be hidden away and whatever. But I just loved the fact that it was just so cute, and it was just like I can imagine. You can imagine. I can see like a row of terraced houses or
Yeah,
whatever,
they
with
all
all
have
the
them.
cars going down and
Correct.
everybody having this.
Absolutely.
And with the bulbs like they were, if you weren't careful, I should imagine that could drain your battery if you left it on too many times, because bulbs
Well,
were they
well,
would eat the electricity, wouldn't they?
you put it on every time you parked your car because people didn't have drives in those days and
No, I suppose
they didn't
no,
cement over their front gardens or
no.
anything like that. I was brought up on a council estate, and everybody just had one car. Well, you were lucky if you had a car. Not everybody had a car in those days, but people hadn't paved over. We
No.
didn't think about that because we good old British gardens, and dropped the curb. And we were lucky in our council house because we had a gap between us and the ones next door. So we had a shared drive to
Yeah.
two asbestos garages, which
Nice.
you just think, oh God.
Nice. I
And
had
I
one.
seem to have survived, Jamie. I
Well
seem to have
done.
survived,
I had one in the back of our house, and I put it on eBay and sold it. And I sold it to a bloke who was a farmer, and he paid 300 quid for mine,
Oh my goodness.
15 years ago. 300 quid for it, and I helped him take it down. And what he was doing with it was he was going to put it back up on his farm. He was going to line it all, and he was using it for slaughtering animals and fridges and freezers. There you
Sla
go.
Slaughtering fridges and freezers.
Slaughtering his animals and then putting the
I was just going to
fridge
say, it sounded like we're slaughtering fridges and freezers. Yeah, I can imagine.
slaughter at the front, fridges, freezers, or freezers
Freezers.
at the back. And yeah, that's what. But yeah,
I
asbestos.
I
All that.
need a chest freezer. That takes me to another story. So we're digressing. We will finish the
Come
nested loop
on,
and come
how are we
back.
doing? Have a look at the
We're
list.
all
How are we
right.
doing?
We're going round to smoking after this, so we're okay.
Okay,
We're going to end
keep
up
going.
on the smoking bit. So I'm going to digress a bit into say that I've discovered as a willow weaver. I don't call myself a professional one, although I am running my first course in a few weeks, Jamie, which is a bit to make garden
Well,
obelisks. I've been asked by the village allotment society, would I run the course so they can raise a little bit of money for the community allotment? So I was like,
that's cool.
so I'm going to give it a go. Anyway, I digress again. Uh, I'm like, oh God, how am I going to soak all this willow? And I was on a willow call. Well, I was following a willow weaver on Instagram, and she said, "Oh, I've just look, I've got one of these big walk-in freezers like you get at a butcher's, with a big handle on the door, and you open the door and you walk in." And I was like, "Why has she got one of those?" And she said, "This will be great. I'm now going to put all my willow in." So she preps it. So I questioned her and she said, no, no, you prep it, then you put it in the freezer and it's ready to use straight away. And I thought, oh my, that's brilliant.
Hang on. Is this actually using the freezer switched
As a
on?
freezer, yes. So then I spoke to other willow weavers, and another one said, yes, I've got a chest freezer. It sits under a lean-to plugged in, and I've put it in. You keep it, on the lowest, but you put it in, and then the willow's ready to use.
On the warmest
On the
setting,
warmest, sorry, yes. Now
not the
you're making me
coldest.
think, do they switch it on or do they just store it in there?
I
I'm going to have to
I
double
don't
check. I'm going to have to
I
double
don't think
check.
I'd switch it on because I mean the good thing is it's sealed, so if
It's
it goes
sealed.
in wet, you wouldn't need to switch it on
No, true.
because
I'll
it's just going
double
to seal
check.
it
Now
in.
you've made I there you go. You see, I made an assumption that okay, you put it in the chiller because she said it was an idea she'd been asked because she runs courses and people often say, "Oh, I'd like to try making another little basket," but they don't want to have to go to the bother of ordering a huge amount of willow,
Yeah,
then soaking it, prepping it. But if they could just go and buy, 60 sticks, if you like, they would do that. And I thought,
yeah,
well, the way I work, of course, I go and soak mine, thinking, oh, next week looks quiet. I've got a 7 day soak to do. By the time I
yeah.
get to the end of the 7 days, I've gone bonkers work wise. And I'm just like, well, I can't use this willow now. But then another teacher, lovely Sarah Le Breton, who I did my recent course with, she was telling the story of she was looking for a freezer and she saw an upright one. And she contacted the gentleman who was slightly Polish. I think she said he was sort of Polish or his English wasn't very good. Let's put it that way. Uh, I'm not against
I
any
like
other theme.
slightly
So,
Polish. I like slightly
I
Polish.
meant to
Don't
say,
edit this out. Don't edit this out. Slightly Polish.
well, let's just say he couldn't speak very good English. So
Yeah.
she was asking him, how big was it? Was it this big? Was it that big? And she said the only thing I could think in the end to say to him was, is it big enough that you could put a body in it? It would stand up because she wanted the height, of course, for the
Okay.
7 foot and whatever. She said, she said, then I realized what I'd said. And she said, his face was a picture, sort of saying, what? And she said, I had to try and describe to him, no, 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 I don't want to put a body in it.
Oh, good
She
grief.
said, I have this vision of him thinking I'm about to pop somebody off and stick him in the freezer. She said, I want to put willow in it. So actually, I'll check with Sarah and say, because I remember her saying, she says, no, I keep my freezer outside and I'm sure she said it was plugged in, but I will double check. So there you go. There's back to how did we get from where we
I
were?
don't know.
Back
You
to
know
the
what
cigarette lighter.
you know what the title of this one needs to be, don't you? I digress.
Yes. Yes. From the weather to I digress. There you
Yeah.
go. Um, cigarette lighters. So you remember, I mean, you can still get cars with
Yes.
cigarette lighters in. And
Right.
Sophie said it's really interesting when you talk about cigarette lighters because the youngsters who are learning to drive now, 17, 18, look at you like you're bonkers. So, well, what do you mean cigarette lighter? And she sort of said, oh, it's where did you used to plug your phone in? And your head, your half head just like, they didn't have them in those days. So for anybody who doesn't know what I said, and I'd like to know if people know what we're talking about. How many of you know about parking lights? How many of you know about cigarette lighters? They were fun, weren't they, as a kid?
Would they? Yes, but hang on. The important thing is here really is if you just asked a youngster, how does the cigarette lighter work? How do you make it work?
Yes.
They wouldn't get it, would they? They wouldn't
No.
get it
No.
because they understand what you've got to do. And I think if they saw it and saw what it did and how
So
blooming hot it
dangerous,
gets,
actually. Absolutely.
did you ever touch the end of one?
Yes.
And I did.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
anybody of that
But
era
you
who
got kids in the
didn't
car.
is not telling the truth because we all
Correct.
did it. We all saw this red thing and thought, oh, that
Don't
looks
let that
foul.
touch. Ah!
We all did it.
Yeah, you used to push. It was great fun as a kid as well, which is what was
I
so
know.
dangerous.
I
Because in
know.
those days, mum and dad or whatever, all the adults would go off into the pub. Kids weren't allowed in the pub, weren't even allowed in the garden. We sat in the
Ah,
car, and
yeah.
a bottle of Coke with a straw would come out, and a bag of crisps for each of us, and it wasn't salt vinegar
Blimey.
with a little blue wrapping in. And as I remember going, 3 or 4 of my mum's friends all going with their kids, and we would all be in our cars And then we'd climb into one car, and one of the adults would come out with a tray with the bottles of Coke, with a straw at the top, a couple of things of crisps. We all find the little blue packet and unwrap it, and then shake to get the salt in. That shows you how old I am. But the cigarette lighter, we used to love pushing it in. So for anybody who
Oh,
doesn't know, you used to push it in, didn't you? And then it would
yeah.
spring out when it was
Hang on.
hot.
And how long would it take? We didn't know. It was like a jack in
No,
the box. You had
correct.
no idea
When it would
when it
pop
was going to.
out.
And you didn't have an idea because if you messed with it, the more you messed with it, as in you put it on the first time, it might take 40
Ages.
seconds. Well, because you've put it on and it's burnt for, and you've said, oh, that's good. Next time you put it, it isn't in for 40 seconds
No,
because
it
it's not
popped.
hot enough already.
Correct.
So, and you just like, when's it going to pop out? When's it going to? It was
Yes.
just, it was the
It was the
scariest thing.
games. But
Yeah, it was
then you
great.
think people would take the cigarette lighter out and put the red end, of course, excuse me, to the end of the cigarette. But then you
Yeah,
think, and they're driving at the same time. If you
yeah.
think about it, the drivers would push it in, get the cigarette out, bring it out, light this. Do you think, what, how bonkers is
Well,
that?
well, this is so you're just now right spot on time for when I started learning to drive. I stopped smoking at 19. We've discussed this before. I stopped smoking when I'd got a car. I swore
Ah,
that I would never smoke in a car because
right.
of my dad had a few cars
Oof.
and the smell of the smoke.
Smell.
I used to smoke a pipe. I
Oof.
was always car sick, and it wasn't because I was a sickly child. It's because I was being
The
subjected
Pope.
to
The
inhaling all.
nicotine. Yeah.
Yeah, so I said I would never smoke in a car, and that's when I stopped smoking, and that was 41 years ago tomorrow ish. Yay, 41 years not smoking.
Well done, Jamie. But
Um,
it also made Sophie and I talk about when she reminded me, actually, and she's very young, and she said, kids today are absolutely kind of amazed that we used to have cigarette machines. And when you think things disappear and you forget that we
yeah,
used to have them until you have that discussion, like about the parking light. And then Sophie mentioned the cigarette machines. And she said, some of my youngsters are like, what do you mean a cigarette machine? And I was like, oh, yeah. I'd forgotten, of course. They were everywhere, weren't they? You
they
could go into a
were.
pub, they were everywhere. They were
If you
easy
went,
access.
if you went into a town centre, so I know
Yeah,
the,
there'd
the,
be
the local house, the
a
local
fag
town centre
machine.
to us was Hales Owen. That's where we were
Yeah.
lived over there when I was younger. And if there was, say, a step between the frontage of the buildings more than 3 foot, it would have a cigarette machine on.
Yeah.
And there seemed to be two or three, maybe four in the town centre that
That's right.
you were no further than a couple of hundred yards away from. That's what it felt like. It was just felt like this is the most important thing. But that's what that was all about, wasn't it? It was the marketing.
Correct.
It was all of that to get you to
Marlborough,
smoke.
Rothmans, Benson and Hedges, Silk Cut. I remember them all. My grandfather,
And
he smoked the worst ones. He was the senior service without the filter. Only wimps have a filter.
right, I'm
Players
gonna
senior service or Navy Cut. That was the other
right.
one.
I'm gonna players. So now you've just taken to me to the other thing I wanted to mention for my van. So I haven't bought the little light yet. They're about 60 quid now, second
Oh,
hand.
wow.
Oh yeah, they're not cheap.
Wow.
So a good one, a Pifco that I would want.
Yeah.
But the other thing I have bought already is I remember my dad, he used to smoke a pipe all the time. But I remember occasionally there would be a packet of cigarettes and they were players,
The
player, it wasn't Navy
let
Cut, was
yeah,
it?
it was
Oh,
there's
it was senior
senior
service.
service.
It was senior service.
Yeah.
I found somebody that makes them for museums and whatever, and
Ah.
I bought a senior service packet of cigarettes that I used to see occasionally when I was much younger. I was probably 5 or 6 when he was smoking those, and I've bought a packet and it sits on the front seat of my van. So
Oh,
when I'm
wow.
driving so I'm trying to make the inside more period of things that I can remember.
Yeah.
So I just thought, yeah, if I have a packet of cigarettes, it's like having a little bit of, even though it's not his and it
Yeah.
wasn't,
Yeah.
no, there's just a little reminder of there's something there of the period.
Yeah.
And I think if you do it something like that, for me, it's a case of when somebody looks in a van, it just looks more natural. So yeah, oh, yes, I've got a packet of senior service.
Well, as I say, it suddenly took me back, just as we're coming to here we come. We've nearly done for full circle to my granddad giving me like a couple of shillings or half a crown. And now people are going, what the hell's half a crown? As we
I
found
was
out
going
on
to
a
say, what's
quiz the
half a
other night.
pound? What's half
Well,
a?
half a crown is 2 and 6. and they were big silver coins.
What's
And you
two and
used to,
six? Two
Jamie,
shillings and
no, really,
sixpence.
two
So that's
shillings,
12
so
and a half
12,
pence.
12 and a half. Yes.
Yes.
So, and I used to have two half crowns. Mum used to give us two half crowns in an envelope for our school dinner money when we used to have school dinners. We used to take it on a Monday. So, a half a crown, and this is where Clive and I realised just how old we are. And my grandfather would give me that and just say, "Oh, nip down to the Dragon or the local shop or whatever, and go and get me a packet. Go and get me a packet of Navy Coat, or go and get me some senior service." So we trot down as kids, put the money in, pull the drawer out of the ones we knew he smoked, pick up the
Yeah.
packet of cigarettes, and take it home.
Oh, I wonder if there's a date. I wonder if there's a date that just take them all out because I mean we can sort of go digressing again slightly, but with the Rothman, Silk Cut, all the other Marlboro, B&H, whatever, with all of those advertising on racing cars, um,
Oh yes, that was
they stopped all that. I wonder
yes,
if the machines.
went at the
Wonder when
same
they
time.
stopped. I'll find out the date and
Find
we'll put it
out.
on Instagram. I'll put
We'll
it on
find
Instagram.
out. Okay, dokes. And that's can go with the podcast at some point. So there we go. We started with the weather and we
Oh,
said we'd end up with the cigarettes. And we followed what we think, what we think is a natural path for you and I to get from there to there. And that's the
and I'm
processing.
exhausted, Jill. I'm exhausted. Anybody who listens probably, blimey, I'm glad that's over. If anybody gets to the end, I wonder who gets to
Absolutely.
the end.
I think some people
Somebody
get to
must.
the end.
Alex.
So yes,
Alex.
we'll have to make sure. And Elsa probably does, and Sue, I would think. So
Oh, there you go. We'll
anyway,
have
there
to
we
ask.
go. We're done for this episode. I think we're on about episode 82, 83. Jamie. We'll soon be up by the end of the year. No, we've got another 2 years if we're doing them every other week, something like that. We'll be getting, no, by the end of the year, we might be up at 100 episodes.
We'll have
So,
to get to once a
ooh,
week, Jill.
oh no, I'm doing different podcasts and I've got Thrumble going on. So, anyway, because the weeks go by really fast, it seems to
They
be, oh
do.
God, 2 weeks already. So,
Two's
thank you,
good, though.
everybody. Yes, I agree with you. Thank you, everybody, for listening to our loyal listeners. By all means, share, like, subscribe. I don't know if you have a bell button you have to hit. I'm on YouTube, and Jamie's put for
Four.
what?
There's four
For
listeners, loyal
Oh,
ones.
all right, for loyal listeners. And you take care. Have a good week. And hopefully, in a couple of weeks, I might have seen a little bit of sunshine. If not, send boats.
Yes.
So, Jamie, you have a good couple of weeks. Good to chat to you. And we'll speak again soon.
And you. Bye, everyone.